It was in a land where time seemed to have etched every wrinkle on faces and every furrow in the fields that João's life unfolded. A man of few words, but with a depth that only years and working the land can sculpt, João was the living embodiment of silent dignity. His slow but firm steps knew every inch of those dusty roads, every shortcut between the coffee plantations and the verdant pastures. He possessed no great material wealth, but his fortune was measured in the wisdom he accumulated, the stories his eyes told, and the tacit respect he inspired in the community. He was a pillar, a guardian of traditions, someone who saw the world change around him but maintained the essence of who he was. His life was a testament to human resilience, to the unwavering connection with nature and with the roots that define us. Even in his most serious countenance, there was a glimmer of hope, a calmness that only acceptance of the cycle of life can bring. That day, however, held the promise of a break from routine, a visit to a place that for many was merely a recent point of interest, but for him was a living piece of his own memory, a place that held echoes of a past he could never, or wanted to, forget. For João, the land was never just soil. It was a living, pulsating being, breathing stories and secrets passed down through generations. His family cultivated those lands long before modern boundaries defined properties with fences and signs. They were the guardians, the interpreters of the language of the wind in the leaves and the murmur of the streams. João grew up listening to his grandparents' tales of a large farm, which, although not legally theirs, was the heart of their existence, the place where most of the workers and their families lived and thrived. His father and grandfather, like him, dedicated their lives to working those lands, planting, harvesting, caring for the animals with a tenderness that went far. Beyond mere obligation, that place was an open book of their memories, each tree a chapter, each stone a paragraph. But time, relentless, brought changes. The Fazenda da Esperança, Hope Farm, passed through different hands, modernized itself, and with the new management came new structures, new rules, new faces. That sense of belonging, once so natural, began to fragment, replaced by a complex network of bureaucracy and detachment. Among the many memories João cherished of the old Fazenda da Esperança, Hope Farm, one stood out with particular affection: the image of a boy, the son of the former owners, a boy with curious eyes and an easy smile, who always preferred João's company in the fields to that of the adults in the main house. João, with his infinite patience and practical wisdom, taught the boy the secrets of the land, how to plant a seed and watch it sprout, how to identify the songs of birds and the cycles of the seasons, respect for nature and hard work. That bond, forged under the hot sun and the dust of the harvests, was stronger than blood ties, an almost paternal connection. The boy grew up, and as was to be expected, the world called him beyond the farm's borders. He left for the big city, for his studies, for the construction of a brilliant career. Sporadic news reached João's ears, telling of the resounding success of that young man whom he had taught to see life in a simple yet profound way. Now, decades later, that same young man, now a powerful and influential man, had returned to his homeland, not to relive the past, but to build a new empire, a modern rural complex that promised to revolutionize local agriculture. João, in his heart, held on to the hope that, behind the successful businessman, there still existed the curious-eyed boy he had known. The buzz in the small town was unanimous. The old Fazenda da Esperança, Hope Farm, had been reborn under a new aegis, transforming itself into a colossal agricultural enterprise, a high-tech complex that promised to bring prosperity and modernity to the region. The old sheds had given way to imposing metal and glass structures. The fields, once dotted with small farms, now displayed extensive monocultures managed by sophisticated machines. The owner of this empire was a figure shrouded in mystery and admiration. His name was pronounced with reverence, and his vision of the future was widely praised. João heard the comments in the corner store, saw the photos in the local newspapers, and the grandeur of the new structure rising on the horizon, where before there had only been rustic simplicity. He felt a mixture of strangeness and curiosity. That land, so familiar in its essence, now seemed almost unrecognizable. There was a pang of nostalgia for the old farms, for the smells and sounds that marked his youth. However, there was also a latent hope that this new era might somehow revive memories of times past, perhaps even bring back something he thought had been lost forever. His curiosity to see with his own eyes what had become of that significant part of his life grew stronger each day. And so, on a sunny morning bordering on innocence, João made his decision. It wasn't just a casual visit driven by curiosity, but a gesture with profound meaning, a personal pilgrimage to a sanctuary of his memories. He put on his best cotton shirt, worn by time and sun, slipped on the boots that had accompanied him for years, and with his characteristic dignity, set off. In his calloused hands he carried not a valuable gift, but something even more precious. A small bundle containing selected seeds of an ancient variety of corn, cultivated by his family for generations, a living symbol of the land's heritage. He wanted to share this, as a link between the past and the present, with the new owner. As he approached the entrance to the complex, the grandeur of the structure enveloped him. An imposing gate made of wrought iron and solid wood, flanked by high walls, marked the boundary between the simple world he knew and the new universe of agricultural technology. It was as if the land, once open and inviting, now displayed a barrier, a filter that separated those outside from those inside. The pomp and organization of the place contrasted with its simplicity, a setting that, although impersonal, did not diminish the importance of its silent mission. As João approached the imposing gate, he noticed a security guard. Tall, impeccably dressed in a navy blue uniform, the man, named Marcos, sported a rigid posture and an attentive gaze, typical of someone responsible for the order and security of a high-end complex. Marcos, a young man still in his early 30s, with a serious face and a slightly raised chin, represented the face of modernity and efficiency, a striking contrast to João's humble figure. When the old farmer stopped before the gate, a strange silence hung in the air, a brief hiatus where two worlds collided without words. João, with his soft voice, somewhat hoarse from age, tried to explain his purpose. "Good morning, young man. I came to see the owner of the farm. I have something important for him." His words, laden with pure intention, seemed to get lost in the aseptic air of that controlled environment. Marcos, accustomed to appointments, credentials, and strict protocols, frowned. In his mind, a man who looked like John, without a formal invitation or prior arrangement, couldn't possibly have anything important for the illustrious owner. John's simplicity, his plain clothes, and his calloused hands didn't fit the profile of visitors expected for a place like that. John's attempt at explanation went on and on, but each word seemed to hit an invisible barrier of incomprehension. "I've known the owner for a long time, since he was a child. I taught him many things about the land. I have some old seeds for him." The mention of the seeds, instead of softening, only hardened Marcos's expression. In his perception, the old man seemed like one of those many who appeared seeking favors or some kind of charity, using a fabricated story to gain access. "Sir, excuse me, but there's no record of a visit for you. And the owner doesn't receive people without an appointment. He's a very busy man." Marcos's voice was polished, but inflexible, laden with the authority his uniform conferred. The tone began to change, from professional to slightly impatient. "I insist, young man. He'll want to see me. He knows me like a father." John's sentence was uttered with a conviction that, to Marcos, sounded like just another attempt to deceive. "Sir, please leave. We cannot allow unauthorized persons to enter. If you do not leave, I will be forced to take other measures." The veiled threat hung in the air. The feeling of being an intruder, of having his dignity questioned and his intentions misinterpreted, began to weigh on João. The pain was not physical, but an invisible wound in his soul, a feeling of being rejected from a place that, in his heart, he considered part of himself. There, at the entrance, the phrase that would later echo. The security guard expelled the poor farmer, began to take shape, under the cold gaze of inhospitability. The tense air around the gate seemed to solidify, and Marcos's voice, previously only firm, now carried a note of ostentatious impatience. "Sir, please, I've already asked politely. Now, I need you to move away from the property. I can't let you obstruct the entrance." As Marcos gestured, indicating the exit, the scene began to attract some glances. A car stopped a little further ahead, and the driver and passenger observed with discreet curiosity. Those glances, even if brief, intensified João's feeling of humiliation. He wasn't a confrontational man. His life had taught him to resolve things calmly and patiently. But there, under the judgment of others and the authoritarian imposition, he felt diminished, as if his simple existence were a mistake in the context of that grandiose undertaking. His heart ached, not with anger, but with a deep sadness at the incomprehension. He felt that it wasn't just his entry that was being denied, but his own history, his genuine connection to that place and to the man he hoped to find. The weight of rejection was overwhelming, but even so, His dignity prevented him from reacting with despair. He simply nodded, his shoulders slightly hunched, his eyes reflecting a silent melancholy that, to the security guard, was merely the sign of a problem solved. Despite the humiliation, a gentle stubbornness, forged in years of working the land and its whims, prevented João from simply giving up. He wasn't there out of whim, nor out of greed, but for a purpose that was sacred to him. The small bundle of seeds he clutched in his hands was more than a gift. It was a link, a living bridge between two worlds he hoped to reconnect. Turning away was definitely not an option. He knew the owner was a man of many commitments, moving within a routine of tight schedules and important meetings. Perhaps, João thought, the problem was only the timing, the approach. With a sigh that carried the weight of hope and persistence, João decided not to leave. He walked away from the main gate, but not from the property. He skirted the fence, following a small trail he knew from his boyhood, an almost forgotten path that led to a more secluded part of the complex, near the old cornfields. There, under the shade of an old mango tree, he would wait. The hope that, at some point, he might have a second chance, perhaps in a quieter moment, without the oppressive formality of the main entrance, nourished his soul and gave strength to his weary steps. While João took shelter under the mango tree, his attentive but discreet gaze continued to scan the activity in the complex. He noticed other employees, perhaps from maintenance or logistics, moving back and forth in small vehicles. He saw modern trucks, loaded with agricultural products, entering and leaving. But what caught his attention most was the reaction of some people who had witnessed the scene at the gate. One of the drivers, as he passed, slowed down and cast a curious, almost pitying glance, but without intervening. Later, a uniformed woman, who seemed to be from administration, quickly exited the main building and hurried past in an electric cart. Her gaze also met João's, and there was a brief moment of hesitation in her gestures, an almost imperceptible pause. Those glances, even if silent, said a lot. They revealed an immediate perception of the contrast between the simple man and the sophisticated environment, and perhaps a slight doubt about what had really happened. João felt the force of superficial judgment, but also the subtle curiosity that some seemed to harbor. He knew that behind that embarrassing moment, there was a much more complex and profound story to be told, and the truth, he hoped, would still find its way to the light. While João waited patiently a few meters away, inside the gleaming administrative building, the gears of the vast agricultural empire moved at a rapid pace. And at the center of it all was him. Dr. Ricardo, the owner, the visionary behind the transformation of the old Fazenda da Esperança. A man of imposing presence with an impeccable suit and penetrating gaze, Ricardo exuded success and determination. At that very moment, he was walking down one of the corridors with his entourage, composed of managers and advisors, discussing details of a new production line. His mind was completely absorbed in numbers, market projections, and logistics. There was no room in that whirlwind of activities and responsibilities for digressions about what was happening beyond the furthest limits of his property. He was the architect of that future, a man who rarely looked back, focused on building tomorrow. The buzz about the incident at the gate had not yet reached his ears, and the humble figure of João was completely alien to his world of high management. The irony of the situation, however, hung in the air. While he consolidated his empire, the key to one of the most important chapters of his past was being treated as a mere intruder, waiting for a chance to be recognized. Dr. Ricardo's path would lead him, unbeknownst to him, to an unexpected collision with the man who held the seeds of his own history. João's patience, tested by the relentless sun and the prolonged wait, seemed about to be rewarded. From his discreet vantage point, under the shade of the mango tree, he saw a group of executives emerge from the main building, led by a man he recognized even from a distance. That haughty walk, the confident posture, the sheen in his dark hair. It was him. The boy João had watched grow up, now the powerful Dr. Ricardo. His heart pounded, a mixture of relief and a pang of nervousness. João knew the opportunity was now. Taking a deep breath, he gathered all his courage and, with the bundle of seeds still firmly clutched in one hand, took a few steps out of the shade. "Ricardo!" His voice, though a little weak with age, carried the strength of familiarity, of history. Dr. Ricardo, absorbed in conversation with his directors, barely heard. João tried again, this time louder, making a gesture with his hand, a simple nod, almost a plea, a gesture that to anyone else would be insignificant, but which, in the silent language of a shared past, could be a link. Amidst all the grandeur and weight of his responsibilities, would the businessman still remember the farmer who taught him about life and the land? The answer would come in moments, and the revelation promised to redefine everything that had happened until then. If you are moved by João's persistence and the depth of his connection to the past, imagine what happens next, and share this story so that more people can be inspired. Your interaction helps us bring more narratives like this. The sound of the name, uttered with a mixture of reverence and intimacy, made Ricardo pause. It wasn't the clarity of the voice, but the tone, the resonance of an old memory, that made him turn his head. His gaze swept over João's humble figure, lingering on his tired eyes, yet filled with a familiar gentleness. For a moment, the successful businessman gave way to the boy playing in the fields. A whirlwind of images passed through his mind. The afternoon, sun, the smell of wet earth, João's strong hands guiding his to plant a seed. That man before him, though aged and marked by time, was unmistakably his João, the one who taught him to respect the cycle of life, to value honest work, to admire beauty in simplicity. The words of his advisors, which had previously filled his ears, now dissipated into thin air, replaced by the echoes of a happy childhood. A smile, which had long since ceased to adorn his face amidst business commitments, began to form. He took one step forward, then another, his body moving almost instinctively toward the one that represented his deepest roots. Moving away from his entourage, Ricardo walked towards João, his smile widening as he approached. The distance between them lessened, and their eyes met in a tacit understanding that transcended words. When Ricardo finally stopped before João, a silence heavy with emotion hung in the air. It was then that, with his voice choked with emotion and his eyes brimming with tears, Ricardo uttered the words that would echo throughout the complex and leave a mark on all those present. João, my old friend, my father. The word father, spoken with overwhelming sincerity, was not a biological reference but a profound acknowledgement of a familial bond of soul, a tribute to the man who had, in fact, been a father figure in his life, a mentor, a guide. That title, coming from the magnate to the humble farmer, was the highest honor, the purest demonstration of love and respect. The shock reverberated among Ricardo's employees and advisors, who watched the scene in astonishment. But the most visible reaction was that of Marcos, the security guard, whose face, once firm and professional, now paled. His eyes, wide with disbelief, were fixed on João and Ricardo, the realization of the gigantic mistake he had just made hitting him with the force of thunder. Marcos, the security guard, watched the scene in shock, feeling his blood run cold. Every fiber of his being screamed in dismay. Father? The word echoed in his mind, repeated incessantly as the relentless reality of his mistake sank in. He had expelled with unnecessary harshness the father of the most powerful man in the entire region, his own boss. The gleam of pride in his once impeccable uniform now felt heavy, almost suffocating. The rigid posture he always maintained crumbled, and a subtle tremor began to run through his hands. It wasn't just the fear of losing his job, but the overwhelming shame of having failed not only in his duty of discernment, but in his own humanity. He judged by appearance, by simple clothing, by the lack of an agenda, and in doing so, dishonored someone of such importance and dignity. The image of João, bowed under the harsh words, now took on a new and painful meaning. Marcos felt a lump in his throat, an uncontrollable desire to go back in time, to have acted differently, to have seen beyond appearances. The lesson was brutal but undeniable, and the weight of his insensitivity was almost unbearable. Without hesitation, Ricardo stepped forward and enveloped João in a warm, tight embrace, a gesture that spoke volumes about the affection and deep connection between them. It wasn't a formal hug, but the reunion of two souls that time and material success couldn't separate. The seeds, still in João's hand, almost fell, but were caught with the same tenderness with which Ricardo embraced him. Tears welled in the farmer's eyes, not of sadness, but of uncontainable joy and relief. After the hug, Ricardo held João's shoulders, his eyes fixed on his, an expression of gratitude and reverence. Only then did he turn to Marcos, who approached with downcast eyes, shame etched on his face. Ricardo didn't reprimand him angrily, but with a calm and didactic voice. Marcos, this is João, one of the most important men in my life. He taught me everything about this land, about life. He taught me the true value of things. The words weren't a punishment, but a lesson, an invitation to reflection. Marcos, his voice choked with emotion and his eyes brimming with tears, begged for forgiveness. "Sir, I'm so sorry, Mr. João. I didn't know. Please forgive me for my ignorance and my mistake." His regret was palpable, and João with his gentleness simply nodded, understanding. With João by his side, Ricardo began to walk through the complex, no longer hurried and focused solely on business, but with a calmness that hadn't been seen in him for a long time. His advisors followed him, curious and attentive to his every word. Ricardo, with his hand on João's shoulder, began to narrate in a low but clear voice the story that united them. "When I was a child, João was more than just an employee on my parents' farm. He was my mentor, my confidant, the man who showed me the secrets of the countryside, the patience of nature. While other boys my age wanted expensive toys, I wanted to be by João's side, learning to distinguish one plant from another, to feel the earth in my hands." He continued, revealing how João taught him to plant his first corn, to understand the cycle of rain, to respect life in all its forms. He taught me about the resilience of seeds, that even the smallest have the potential to generate an entire forest. And more importantly, he taught me that a person's true value lies not in their wealth or status, but in their wisdom, their integrity, their capacity to love and teach. Ricardo's words painted a vivid picture of the profound impact João had on his development, explaining to everyone present the true meaning behind the affectionate father. From that moment on, João's presence in the complex was no longer that of an intruder, but of an honored guest, a revered advisor. He walked alongside Ricardo, who, with a gleam in his eyes, asked for his opinion on the new equipment and modern farming techniques. "What do you think, João? Do you think this new irrigation would be efficient for our heirloom corn?" Ricardo asked, seeking the practical wisdom of the old farmer. João, with his unwavering serenity, observed, touched the earth with his calloused hands, offering his insights with his usual humility. He felt no need to flaunt his new position. His dignity had already been restored and recognized. That moment was living proof that a person's true wealth lies not in their social status or material possessions, but in the essence of their character and the impact they have on the lives of others. Ricardo, despite all his success and futuristic vision, understood that the foundation of everything lay in the roots, in the ancestral knowledge that João represented. The scene, once marked by prejudice, now exuded genuine hope, showing that human connection and respect for genuine knowledge can transcend any social barrier, uniting two worlds in an unexpected harmony. The incident with João and Ricardo's subsequent revelation quickly became an invaluable lesson for everyone involved in the complex. It wasn't just Marcos, the security guard, who learned that day, but every employee who witnessed the scene or heard the story. The perception of the poor farmer changed drastically. From a mere intruder to a figure of wisdom and reverence, that episode served as a mirror, reflecting how quickly judgments can be made based on appearances, and the blindness that this superficiality can cause. The previously hurried and indifferent glances of employees towards ordinary or elderly visitors began to be replaced by a new curiosity and respect. Ricardo, aware of the impact of what had happened, made a point of reinforcing this message in his internal meetings, emphasizing the importance of empathy and a human perspective in all interactions. The work environment, previously focused exclusively on efficiency and results, began to cultivate an additional value, that of recognizing and valuing the history and contribution of each individual, regardless of their social position or attire. That day, the complex not only produced harvests, but also cultivated a new culture of respect and discernment. João's honor was not only restored, it was elevated to a new level, solidifying him as a living symbol within that grand complex. The story of how the security guard expelled the poor farmer until the owner called him Dad became an internal legend, whispered in the hallways and shared among new employees as a constant reminder of core values. João, once invisible to the security system, was now a respected figure, an informal patriarch. He was invited to lunch with Ricardo to participate in discussions about the farm's future, and his wisdom was sought with the same reverence as the advice of high-ranking consultants. His presence, once seen as a nuisance, was now a vital link to the past, an anchor that kept the company connected to its essence, to the land and the people who had cultivated it for generations. That simple farmer, with his calloused hands and welcoming smile, proved that true authority doesn't come from a position, but from character, life experience, and the ability to positively impact those around him. He had become the personification of the humility that precedes honor. The relationship between Ricardo and João blossomed again, stronger than ever. It wasn't just a matter of respect, but of a shared future. Instead of keeping João merely as an honored guest, Ricardo made a proposal that solidified the link between the past and the present. He offered João a special position, consultant of ancestral wisdom and guardian of the land's traditions. The idea was that João could share his vast knowledge of organic farming, native plants, natural cycles, and sustainable practices that modernity often overlooked. It wasn't charity. It was Ricardo's insightful perception that innovation, when devoid of roots, can become empty. João's experience would be invaluable for the development of sustainability projects and the preservation of local biodiversity. He would have a small piece of land to cultivate his ancient seeds, a living laboratory where his wisdom could be passed on to new generations of agronomists and workers. João's presence now enriched the complex, uniting Ricardo's futuristic vision with the deep connection to the land that João embodied, proving that the truest progress is that which honors its origins. The story of João and Ricardo transcends the gates of that agricultural complex, carrying a universal message for us all. It's a powerful reminder that first impressions are often the most deceptive. How often do we judge a book by its cover, a person by their clothing, their social status, or the lack thereof? The richness of a life, the depth of a story, the magnitude of a heart are rarely evident at first glance. Modern society, with its speed and superficiality, pushes us to categorize, to label, to quickly decide who deserves our attention and respect. But what the story of the security guard expelled the poor farmer until the owner called him father teaches us is that we must resist this temptation. Each individual carries within them a universe of experiences, knowledge, and invisible connections that can surprise and profoundly enrich our own lives. True wisdom lies in looking beyond the obvious, in making room for listening, for patience, for the possibility that the simple may carry the deepest truths and the most valuable lessons. The essence of this narrative lies in the unwavering power of human connection. In an increasingly digital and fragmented world, it's easy to lose sight of the importance of the bonds that unite us, the people who shaped us, and the stories that brought us here. Ricardo, with all his success and prestige, was not ashamed to acknowledge his spiritual father in front of everyone, demonstrating that true greatness resides in humility and gratitude. His public gesture was not just an act of recognition towards João, but a testament to the fact that roots matter, that the people who loved us, taught us, and supported us on our journey deserve to be honored. No matter how far we have come or how different our paths may seem now, it is a story of redemption, not only for the security guard who misjudged, but for any of us who, at some point, may have forgotten that human value is not measured in numbers or titles, but in the quality of our relationships and the ability to keep the flame of gratitude and affection alive, even in the face of the greatest social and economic transformations. John's experience, from the initial judgment to the final honor, invites us to a profound reflection on our own values. What do we truly prioritize in our lives? Efficiency at all costs, often at the expense of empathy, outward appearances, or the essence and character of a person? We live in an era where materialism and visible success are frequently overestimated, and quiet wisdom, discreet kindness, and accumulated experience are sometimes neglected. The story of the security guard ejected the poor farmer until the owner called him father resonates as both a warning and an invitation. A warning against the trap of prejudice and hasty judgment, and an invitation to value the intangible: love, respect, gratitude, and the wealth of knowledge passed down from generation to generation. She reminds us that the true pillars of a healthy and compassionate society are built upon these invisible foundations, and that lasting happiness is not found in the spotlight, but in genuine connections and the recognition of the inherent dignity of every human being, regardless of their fortune or position. The story of João and Ricardo is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity to overcome social barriers and prejudice. It teaches us that respect is a two-way street, and that the true greatness of a leader is revealed in how they honor their origins and those who helped them get where they are. Each of us, in our own way, can learn from João's humility and Ricardo's gratitude. May this narrative serve as a mirror, encouraging us to look beyond the obvious, to question our own prejudices, and to seek the human connections that enrich our lives in ways that money never could. Be inspired by the story of João and his son. How can you look beyond appearances in your daily life? Leave your Comment, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories, and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Together we can build a world with more empathy and recognition, honoring the significant legacy of each life. The fundamental lesson that resonates from the interaction between the farmer and the tycoon is that true family, in its deepest sense, often transcends blood ties. It manifests itself in the people who nurture us, who teach us, who see us not for what we have, but for who we are and what we can become. João, with his simplicity, planted seeds of wisdom in the heart of a young Ricardo. Seeds that germinated and bore fruit of success. And by calling João father, Ricardo not only acknowledged a debt of gratitude, but also validated the idea that love and teaching can create bonds as strong as, or even stronger than, biology. This connection, initially invisible to the world, was revealed in a moment of apparent conflict, transforming humiliation into honor and prejudice into a powerful reminder that affection and mutual respect are the true pillars of any community. It is a celebration of the mentors, the guides, the fathers and mothers we encounter on our journeys, people who, without titles or fortunes, gift us with the invaluable richness of their care and wisdom, forever etching their names into our stories. Reflecting on João's journey and the twist of fate, we are confronted with the reality that society often assigns value based on superficial criteria. Ostentation, power, and money are frequently the markers of success, while humility, lived experience, and hard, silent work are sometimes underestimated or made invisible. The story of the farmer's expulsion and the subsequent revelation of his true importance is a call for reassessment. It compels us to question the dominant narratives about what is valuable and to reconsider the people we encounter in our daily lives. Perhaps the greatest treasure lies not in the hands of those who hold the greatest economic power, but in the wisdom of the elders, in the purity of intentions of the simplest, in the ability to see the world with eyes of gratitude and learning. It is an exhortation to deconstruct the prejudices we carry, to open ourselves to the richness that resides in the most diverse forms of life and knowledge, recognizing that each individual, regardless of their position, possesses an intrinsic dignity and a potential to enrich the collective. In a world where the speed of information and the superficiality of encounters are the norm, João's story stands out as a beacon of hope for the rediscovery of human depth. The way Ricardo recognized and honored him is a rare and inspiring example of how we can and should rescue and value the connections that truly matter. It's not just about an owner and a farmer. It's about each of us, about how we treat the elderly, the less fortunate, those whose stories aren't plastered on magazine covers. It's about understanding that every wrinkle on an elder's face can tell a saga of struggles and victories, that every calloused hand may have sown a future we enjoy today. The security guard's experience, forced to confront his own prejudice, serves as a powerful reminder that the most significant transformation often begins with the humility to acknowledge a mistake. May we carry this message with us, that the true legacy we leave behind is not material wealth, but the way we touch lives, the wisdom we share, and the love we cultivate. The conclusion of João's saga offers us a timeless reflection on the legacy we choose to leave and the meaning of human experiences. Life, with its unexpected twists and turns, can present us with challenges that seem insurmountable. But it is in how we face them and the lessons we learn from them that our true strength lies. João, the farmer, did not seek fame or fortune, but the simple connection and recognition of a shared past. And it was precisely this simplicity and authenticity that elevated him to a level of honor, proving that dignity and respect are values that, once earned, transcend any title or property. The story of the security guard expelled the poor farmer until the owner called him father is not just an inspiring tale. It is an invitation for each of us to reassess what truly matters, to value the roots, the people, and the stories that shape us. May we learn to look more deeply, listen more attentively, and love more, truthfully building a legacy of compassion and understanding that resonates for generations. The way Ricardo treated João after the revelation was not an isolated act of kindness, but a manifestation of deeply rooted principles he had learned in the past. He understood that material prosperity, however vast, is empty without the richness of human connections and respect for roots. His act of publicly calling João father was an act of courage, a breaking of social conventions that often dictate who can be honored and why. This gesture not only redeemed João but also inspired everyone present, showing that true leadership is not measured solely in profit figures, but in the ability to inspire humanity. to recognize the contribution of each individual, and to keep the flame of gratitude alive. It is a legacy of values that Ricardo, now with João's wisdom by his side, would continue to cultivate in his empire, proving that it is possible to innovate and grow without forgetting where we came from and who helped us get there. The story of the farmer and the tycoon serves as a timeless echo of the importance of memory and gratitude. It warns us against the temptation to erase the past in the name of a bright future, and reminds us that true greatness lies in the ability to honor our origins. João's lessons, simple yet profound, are a treasure that transcends time, teaching us about the patience of nature, the resilience of the human spirit, and the transformative power of empathy. May João's figure remain in our minds as a reminder that true wealth lies not in what we accumulate, but in what we share, in the love we give, and in the respect we offer to every human being. May his story inspire us to build a world where every poor farmer is seen not for their condition, but for their essence and the dignity they carry, and where every owner has the wisdom to recognize their own parents at every turn in life. In the end, the story of the security guard kicked out the poor farmer until the owner called him Dad leaves us with a lasting impression of the power of humanity. It highlights that life's greatest lessons are not found in books or lectures, but in everyday interactions, in mistakes made, and in opportunities for redemption. What Ricardo did for João was more than an act of recognition. It was an act of love, a public reminder that no matter how high we may fly, we should never forget the ground that supported us, nor the hands that helped us take flight. It is a message of hope that the world, despite its flaws and injustices, is still capable of acts of profound kindness, and that truth, however long it takes, always finds its way to the light. May this story inspire you to cultivate in your heart the same humility, the same gratitude, and the same capacity to see dignity in every person, for it is in these simple and true connections that we find the greatest meaning of existence.